Hey y'all, Zelda here. I am coming to you with a week ahead pick a skull reading. I'm going to show you three different skulls, and you're going to pick the one that resonates most with you, and then you will check the timestamps and you'll skip ahead so that you can find your reading. So, like if you're reading number one, you can just hang out, and two or three, you can go to the different timestamps. Before we dive in, I am going to tell you a little bit about the decks that we're going to be using, and then I'm going to show you the skulls. So, just making sure I don't mix up the little piles for our readings. Let me just organize them. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be using the Points of View Oracle deck. The Visionary Tarot deck is the tarot deck we're going to be using. And the last one is the Universal Dragon Oracle. This one is one of my faves. Really cool artwork, super bright, colorful. I like the other ones, but I have, ups and downs for both of them. I'm also, for each one, going to read the affirmation that is associated with the tarot card that was pulled. I'm going to read the affirmation from the Hollow Valley Tarot Guidebook. This is by Davis Carr and Erin Elise. We're not using the Hollow Valley deck today, but I love their guidebook. I would recommend, even if you don't like the images on the deck, buying the guidebook just for the amazing information. So yes, we're going to be doing that as well. And for the Points of View Oracle, we're going to be reading the little description because the writing on this deck is one of my favorite parts. So without further ado, let's show you the skulls. So pile number one, your skull is Elrich. Elrich is a smoky citrine. You can see the kind of clarity. And Elrich is carved by Leandro de Souza, has these inclusions, and also it's very hard to see on this kind of camera, but he also has rutile inclusions, so a lot going on. Elrich is an elf king, as his name suggests, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan or an Elven fan. Okay, so if you like Elrich, your pile is pile number one. This is pile number two. Pile number two is Selah. Selah is a red Jasper, carver unknown, to me at least. Has these beautiful quartz lines that go all the way around like wish lines. And Selah is an earth elemental, a very big, almost like mountainous, rocky earth elemental. So if you are resonating with Selah, you are pile number two. Pile number three, your skull is Ninazu. Ninazu is a tourmilinated, like these chunks of tourmaline, of black tourmaline in quartz, carved by Leandro de Souza, has these bits of golden healer. And Ninazu is an underworld deity. So think almost like Hades. Has this quality of ushering souls and working with souls in the underworld, and also being able to retrieve and work with parts of self that were exiled to the underworld. So if Ninazu is calling to you, that is pile number three. So you can jump ahead as you like. I'm also going to just spend a moment calling in our guides. So if you would like to stay for that and then skip ahead, that is totally up to you. I'm spritzing Golden Sphinx, which is one of my aura mists that is used for Akashic Records access. Also helps a lot with these types of readings. Helps to connect to any information that we need to know. So calling in the guides, ancestors, beloved dead, beneficent spirit beings of each and every one who is watching this video, asking that everyone engaging with this is able to utilize their sacred powers of discernment to know what messages are meant for them and which ones they can leave behind. Calling in my own guides, ancestors, teams, lineages, so that I may serve as a channel and call through any messages that people are needing to hear. I call in myself and everyone's highest timelines, the wisdom of their past, present, and future selves from this and every timeline. Okay, if you are here, your pile was number 1. You chose Elrich. This really does him no justice in this lighting. It's hard on these like front cameras. So many details. Elrich makes me want to get a macro lens. I only recently started working with Elrich and with the elves, and he had a lot of information around kind of like traveling between realms and dimensions. So I'm curious how that's going to come through. I'm going to show you your cards. So I'm going to check in quick with this since it's a new Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding kind of correctly that this is like a unique tarot card for this deck, because some decks, they replace cards with different things. Okay, so your oracle card for the dragon is Discipline. The Judge is your points of view oracle. And the Navigator is your tarot card. So the first message that I'm really feeling is that it makes sense that this Discipline card is here, because it feels like there is like an attention to like nuance and detail. It feels like there is, especially with like the way that the head is curled down, I feel this sense of like focusing on the task at hand, paying attention, and being really present with what you are needing at this time to be doing. Discipline can mean like taking a practice that you're doing very seriously. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a job or an employment or anything like that, but it could be that too. I also feel like that is something we can also sometimes need discipline in our relationships. So there could be all different aspects of areas where there is discipline, but discipline feels like this offering of structure. And I actually see it in this Judge card that there's this like seat, and it's like a seat of power and of authority, and it like almost looks like a throne, but like, I don't know, it looks like somewhere you go to kind of make important decisions, and it has this quality of like structure and authority and regality to it. And both of the Judge and the Navigator feel like the Discipline can be a way to hone and shape and attune our tools and our instruments so that, and our body sometimes being an instrument, so that we can actually like perform the task at hand. So sometimes we need to condition our body to be able to do something that we want to do. Sometimes we need to condition our mind through meditation, mindfulness, presence. Sometimes we need to condition our emotional regulation so that we can be in more cohesive, loving relationship. Sometimes we need to have discipline around our other mindfulness practices, and that way our reflecting practices. And that part feels like honing and calibrating is the word that's coming to mind, our instruments so that you can make a very clear judgment. When I think of navigation, I think not only of like finding your own North Star almost, and kind of the other things that navigating can be, but I also like see this compass and I think of how, many of us are very used to having GPSs, myself included, at our disposal. But navigation before that was kind of like a mathematical, precise event where people, had landmarks, they had ways that they were orienting to the stars and directionality. These are things where you could, make calculations so that you can make sure that your compass is guiding and pointing you in the correct direction. These are all things that require discipline, precision, attention. It makes me think of like if you're sailing and you fall asleep, you have to retake the measurements and get yourself back on course so that you're not just headed in this exponentially off direction. And so this is feeling like part of the quality, right? And being attentive to like hear out, like when I think of a judge, right? You hear the different cases, you hear all of the, witnesses, you hear all the different sides, and then you use that kind of perspective to make a very critical, integritous decision. So what I'm going to do now is it's going to be hard because we can't use the affirmation from the tarot guidebook. I will kind of maybe see if one comes to mind. I can read that from here. This is the tiny book. I don't usually use the books from these types of ones, but since it's an individual one, the navigator says blazing new horizons, finding independence, a need to travel, a strong initiative, and leadership. So a little different interpretation. So you can take whichever one feels like it lands or resonates most with you. In the context of this spread, that's what I'm really feeling called to, is more like attending to those instruments and like how the traveling is happening rather than like just you're feeling like it, especially since it's in the context of like the discipline and the judge. Let's read the points of view oracle, see what comes up. The judge. The judge sits in the tall chair overseeing a situation, argument, decision, or conflict. It is a position and a perspective of reverence and responsibility. Looking through the eyes of a judge, you find yourself in a position of authority, one that requires patience, discernment, and compassion. The judge doesn't indiscriminately pass judgment without all the facts, context, data, empathy, and love. It is a perspective of wholeness. See the whole picture and make the best decision you can at this time. If you need more information, get it. If you need to take time, create it. If you find yourself at the crossroads of a big decision, the judge is here to remind you that a decision made with a little bit of distance and time is better than one made from reactivity or fear. This feels like it really attends, like especially with discipline, that there's this quality of like use all of the tools you have available to you. And so with this, right, I see those kind of precise elements. I also love that it said, not without empathy, not without compassion and love. And there's this quality of really attending to those different kind of like levels of how we go through our decision-making process. Let's see if Elrich has anything in particular to kind of share. Okay, I hear focus. Focus. I see he's showing me with his hands this way of like gathering energy into a single point, and then like without like needing it to do it, the point kind of becomes all points. And there's this feeling of like we can gather and connect our attention, and then we can allow that to expand outwards and know that that offers us. So it feels kind of like a Karate Kid type of moment, right? Where if you do this kind of action that builds this skill, then you can apply that skill to all of the different areas. And that feels like whatever the discipline is it's actually doing more for you than just what the practice is. In meditation, we're not just practicing how to sit still, how to pay attention to, have a one-pointed or clear the mind, how to have like control or agency, or how to be present with spirit. We're not only practicing those things, we're actually allowing ourselves to engage with our life in a different way through that practice. And so that is true also with other skills that you're building, is sometimes it's not about what exactly you're doing, but what that skill that you're building allows you to access. And this feels like Elrich has some sort of like aspect of like this will help with things like manifestation, or like easily transmuting energy and bringing and offering that back. Okay, group 1, I think that's your message. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I don't look at the cards before I look at them with you, because I don't want to like have preconceived information or like prefabricated decisions on what to share. But that means that sometimes I'm like surprised by something in the deck. So I appreciate you bearing with me, with us. And thank you so much to being here. I missed you all last week. I missed offering this video. I love doing it. So I will definitely be back next week with another week ahead video next Sunday. I hope to see you there. If you would like to celebrate the new moon in Leo with some energy work and a collective reading for the 2 weeks ahead, I have that event happening on Thursday. You can find the link in the description where to get your ticket. I would love to see you and share space with you there. We are going to move on to group 2. My brain is clearly a little frazzled today, but we're just rolling with it. Has that moment. We've had a lot of power outages today, so I've been like, is everything fine? Okay, group 2, you chose Selah. Selah is such a powerful earth elemental being. When I see him, oftentimes he gives me the energy. I don't know if you're aware of like Lord of the Rings, the like Ents. He's not a tree spirit necessarily, but he has this like massive ancient quality to him, and like also kind of communicates in this like very like slow, patient, deep, rumbly way. Like his wisdom and like even his voice feels like it almost comes from inside my head and like resonates like vibrationally through my body. So some very deep, powerful energy. Okay. Your card for the dragon, the universal dragon, is Fortitude. Your points of view oracle is Amoeba. A very fun word to say, amoeba. And your tarot card is the Seven of Stones. And the Seven of Stones is the Seven of Pentacles. So it's interesting here because one of the things that I really, really notice is that there's this like contrast between the fortitude almost and the amoeba, in the way that it feels like I can kind of see it in the Seven of Stones even, where this feels kind of like grounded and anchoring, but also like it looks kind of like a wind chime or like a mobile, in the sense that it would like move with the wind and be flexible and like resilient and malleable. And that feels like the fortitude of amoeba, is this like ability to replicate and split and divide and ooze, right? This kind of like way, this natural way of being resilient through being flexible. And that's very interesting with this kind of like fortitude, where it feels like there's this like spiraling into the sun, this like radiating a voice, and this like climbing up to this like peak, this rock peak, to be heard and to make contact with the power of your own voice or your own energy. And it's interesting when those come together, because it does feel like this quality of like flexible stability. And that's kind of the energy that I'm really getting from this card combo. Let's see what the affirmation. Let's read the affirmation for the Seven of Pentacles. The Seven of Pentacles is, I see beauty in the process of growth. I see beauty in the process of growth. And we'll read the amoeba as well. The amoeba is the very first card. Amoeba, the simple survivor, has everything she needs. This visitor, in her simplicity, brings a message of independence, individuality, and longevity. Since the beginning of time, she has existed, undefined by shape, able to stretch and flow in her own way. Amoeba brings a message of autonomy and freedom. You won't be trapped or boxed in. You have skillfully maneuvered out of confining, rigid situations before, and this time is no different. Trust your history and ability, your natural ability to shapeshift. Amoeba reminds you of the flexibility of your very nature, slippery at times, able to move fluidly through any situation. You have all that you need. Enjoy the simplicity and self-sufficiency that you embody. If perhaps you have forgotten your autonomy and stick like a parasite to things that don't serve you, amoeba is like a reminder to be flexible, creative, and to let go. Being too rigid and inflexible goes against your natural essence. Free yourself and simplify. So I love that kind of like almost like ancient prehistoric wisdom quality of amoeba. It does feel like an ancestor, like they call them visitors, but it feels ancestral in a way. Seeing beauty in the process of growth, I see this as like the fortitude and like resilience to adapt and to move forward. That feels very important. Fortitude sometimes does come with this ability to adapt and evolve, that like your fortitude doesn't necessarily mean like your staying power of staying exactly the same. And this kind of way of moving, of learning, of developing, it feels very sacred to the learning process, actually, that there are like these milestones, and that in the learning process, it's actually really valuable information to like make a mistake or to like not quite know, and that like it's okay to continually be in progress. Let's see what Selah has to add. Selah speaks slowly. So Selah is speaking about how one of the reason earth elementals can become so large is because they take on and incorporate, bring into their body their surroundings, and they welcome it into their system and make good use of it. This is how mountains get taller over time. This is how the mountains and the mountainous elementals, like rock elementals, exponentially grew and adapted to what they are and don't lose what they might become in who they are right now. So this feels like part of the wisdom of adaptation, right? Or of incorporation. I wonder if there is more for you to learn from going and being with some rocks, or putting, like, there's like the memes, go touch grass. Like there's some aspect around like, is there any like earthy, rocky terrain that you can get to, even if that is like rocks in a park, or even like gravel or concrete, if you are in that kind of environment, that it just feels like that rocky energy has something to share with you about adaptability and about your own fortitude and resilience, and also like utilizing that to integrate and build and learn and accumulate your accomplishments. And Selah, I get the sense like we are about at the end of this message, but I do get the sense that Selah would keep speaking with you, and that there are earth elementals. So he's saying there are earth elementals and rock elementals and earth metal elementals all over this world, regardless of the terrain or where you live, and that making contact with some can be incredibly stabilizing and grounding as we go through tumultuous times, and can help to anchor in your light energy so that you can be more flexible and more fluid, and more fluent with your engagement of yourself, because you have that anchoring. Okay, he says, take the time, be patient, enjoy the journey. Thank you, Selah. And thank you, Group 2, for sharing in this message with us. I hope it brings you support over the coming week. I look forward to seeing you next week. I missed everyone who normally checks in. It's amazing. It's a beautiful part of my week to get to share these with you all. There is a new moon in Leo happening on this week. I'm going to have an event in honor of that, celebrating and honoring and working with that energy. It will be this Thursday. It will be at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It will also have at 7. Let me double check. I just said that, but like I said, I've had one of those days where 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Okay. It will be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and it will have a collective Reiki, a crystalline DNA activation, and we will also do a collective card reading. So I will tune into messages from spirits, channel mediumship messages, as well as tarot readings and oracle readings for the weeks ahead. So if you would like to come to that, you can find the link in the bio. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Thank you, Group 2. If you are still here, welcome, Group 3. Maybe I will not have any bumbling this one, but my brain is a little scattered. So if I pause or have to double check something, that's just how the reading is going this week. And that's fine. You are here because you chose Ninazu. Ninazu has such amazing underworldly interdimensional magic. I can't wait to see what message he has to share with us all. Okay. The Dragon Oracle is Flow. The Points of View Oracle is Long View. And the tarot card is the Maiden of Arrows. So one of the things that I noticed from this is that there feels like there's almost like a little bit of a tension. I am going to double check and make sure that okay. So the Maiden is the Knight in other decks. So wanting to make sure that that was the case, which was not what I was thinking. I do like that they did that, actually. Usually I feel like it's gendered, like female, male, female, male. I don't even use those types of genders, but that's, I think, what people think of is like archetypally, or like feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine. But this one, they do the mage, the maiden, and then the other ones. The queen and the king, just the normal ones. So this one is the Knight of Swords in general, like the elementally speaking, but this one feels very much like those arrows are sticking out of their body, of their fin, of their body, but they don't seem like overly wounded. And it's interesting because even in the booklet, when they talk about this card, it doesn't actually necessarily feel like they've been like stabbed with it. And that would make sense given the energy of this card. It is a very, like, if we think of the elements, the Maiden of Arrows or the Knight of Swords would be a double air, so air and air. And it is this quick paced, energetic, propelling forward. Because of how this energy is, and like almost this scope of the telescope and how the circle is around here, I'm almost seeing this quality of like that being something that you're seeing either in the past or in the future. The long view being almost like temporal and time. And also the flow makes me think of like the flow, like the time streams or something, and like being able to like dip in and out of timelines and flow with a different kind of way. That is also one of Ninazu's kind of special in being this kind of like underworldly being who can help us to retrieve parts of ourselves from the underworld that allows us to actually engage in retrieval, in soul retrieval, in retrieving fragments of ourselves, parts of ourselves that are currently lost in the past and inviting them into the present. That is crossing timelines, right? If we think of that in a very metaphorical way. I know lots of people are not being metaphorical, and sometimes I'm not with timelines, and I'm actually not necessarily in this way either. But I think it's a helpful way to think about it, because many people, while thinking, what's a timeline? That's weird, would acknowledge that in trauma healing, we invite parts of ourselves that are stuck in the past into the present moment. That is a kind of special healing magic. Ninazu is particularly skilled at it. The other thing that I'm noticing is the way that these arrows, they feel like they kind of like cut across like all of the tourmaline parts of Ninazu. This kind of like intersection of the timelines is what I'm really seeing here. It also feels like inviting healing to happen in a rapid way if it needs to. Trusting your healing process feels like a part of this. Trusting that things will like flow as they are needing to. So not like forcing something, but if it's moving quickly, letting yourself go with the flow and with the current of it. The Knight of Swords is something that like we want to like move with the energy. We don't want to push or resist against it. We'll get kind of like buffeted by the wind. So that's kind of the energy I'm feeling. Let's look at the Knight of Swords affirmation. Okay. I move in flow with the pace of the universe. How perfect. I move in flow with the pace of the universe. So that's kind of what we were just speaking about, which is interesting and fun when that happens. Long view is page 31. Okay. Although you are here now, it is not the time to focus on being present. Long view is with you, reminding you that this moment is not the end. Look forward. Through the lens of your experience, celebrate all that you have learned along the way and keep your eyes toward the horizon. Gather your rocks, sticks, gems, dust, and fill your pockets. One pocket filled with the wisdom you have earned, mistakes, successes, and learning. One pocket filled with the wisdom you inherited. You are the expert in your own life. Short-sightedness is not helpful now. Make your choices. You will go the distance. Long view ensures you will get there. Okay. So this feels like there could be some present moment discomfort, actually. That's like the energy that I'm kind of getting with this. And that is very much when Ninazu sometimes comes up. I think that underworldly beings, deities like Hades, for instance, they can be kind of misunderstood because they're not afraid of discomfort. They're not afraid of challenge. And I think a lot of time, and I don't think necessarily any deities are, but or any guides, but I do think that there is this kind of like theme of like spiritual bypassing or something, of like love and light and just pay attention, and like that is something that is not like my idea. This is like a well acknowledged challenge or shadow to the light only part, right? Casts a wide shadow. And so I think that that long view feels like having perspective, that feeling something deeply right now, going with the flow of the universe, and even feeling the experience of the past can actually really deeply inform where you go. And that like every time you arrive at a new destination, like the virtue of that long view, of that telescope, is that it doesn't necessarily show you where you are. It shows you where you're going. So we also need to be able to move our face away from that to survey the surroundings and make sure we're in pace and that we're not like tripping over rocks trying to get across a stream, because we're going to fall in, right, and hurt ourselves if we're crossing a stream and there's rocks. We want to be able to look back and forth and titrate between the present, where we're going, where we've been, and being able to bring that and be in the flow and be moving forward. Let's see what Ninazu has to share. Okay, so immediately I noticed Ninazu feels pleased. He's got like some like almost like cat energy going on. He's not a cat, but I just mean like when cats look kind of like pleased with themselves, he's got this very like live, shadowy power, and he seems pleased. He seems like, yes, that is what I'm asking you to do, and feels like he's affirming some of the things that have been said. Also feels like he's almost got this energy of like, I'm ready when you are. This kind of like quality of when you are ready to delve in and to retrieve some of these gifts, some of your inherent magic that to bring with you in the flow, to allow you to free up your energy to maybe move more swiftly when we are dragging a bag of all of the things that we repress and hide and don't want to focus on in the back of us. We have way less energy to focus on where we're going. We don't want to bring everything with us. It's like before you move houses, you want to clear out all of the clutter. Don't look back there. Okay. I'm cluttered. I'm not perfect. Maybe this part of this reading is for me, but yeah, this feels like clearing out the corners, clearing out the clutter. And Ninazu is he can be a little snarky almost. Like he's got a good sense of humor. He's very, very powerful. Yeah, it just feels like he's there for you if you're ready. He will help guide you through any darkness or challenge. This is a time to be focusing. Like, this makes me think of like if you have a nightmare that is coming up, um, to not be trying to do everything you can to avoid it, but actually to like pay attention to like the symbolism or the emotional content and be like orienting towards what is it trying to tell you? What is that sharing with you? What can you learn from it? How can you move forward? What parts of yourself have you relegated to the past that actually you want to bring with you? And what parts of self maybe even like beloved ones where you're like celebrated for something, do you not want to bring with you? Because I think this can equally be sometimes like, what are you not letting die? What are you trying to resurrect even though it's already been laid to rest? It's already been time to lay that on the fire. That can feel also like being in the wisdom of like allowing yourself to move swiftly with the flow and the pacing of the universe, like is trusting that sometimes it's time to say goodbye to things so that you can get where you're going. If you need to clear out your pack because it's too heavy and you won't get to your destination, how can you allow yourself to do that? How can you allow yourself to grieve and trust that Ninazu will carry that for you to its resting place safely and will tend to it and is not going to let you discard anything that isn't supposed to be let go of? I think that is your message, group 3. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure doing these week ahead readings. I get so much out of it personally. I love sharing it and engaging with you. I would love to hear if it resonates with you in the comments. We do have I am doing a new moon event for the new moon in Leo. It's going to be this Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We are going to have a collective Reiki. There will be a crystalline DNA activation, and there will also be a collective card reading, tarot reading, and mediumship messages from the spirits that are wanting to be present. And I built an altar. It's such a good time. I would love to see you there. If you're interested in checking that out, certain tiers of Patreon always get access. They get access to the replay, access to that on Patreon, as well as other people choose to come and drop in. And I always email you a link to the replay because all of this energy work is remote friendly. So even if you're not there live, you can still get the replay and get access to all of that yummy stuff. Thank you all so much. I really look forward to seeing you all next week. I hope you have a beautiful new moon in Leo. I, for one, am ready to be done with Cancer season. I love Cancers in my life. I love the energy, but my South Node is in Cancer, and woo, I'm like ready to be back in the fire season. So bring it on, sunshine, bring it on, Leo. Keep yourself cool if you are in my hemisphere, where it is currently summer in the northern hemisphere. So yes, I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.